a brand called Hometown USA or Lion brand yarns, and the colors I'm using are Aspen Tweed, and this is a 4-ounce skeiner yarn, and the other color is Chicago Charcoal, and the size hook I'm using is a size N or 9mm hook. So you want to begin with your foundation chain, which I am going to start with 15 chain stitches. 1, 2, 13, 14, 15. And then all of these squares I am working in a half double crochet, and so I'll yarn over, and not the first chain from the hook, but in the second chain from the hook I'll work my first half double crochet. And if you're not familiar with that, just yarn over, pull it through that chain stitch, yarn over, and then you pull it through all 3 loops on your hook. 1, 2, 3. So you yarn over, put your hook in the chain stitch, pull it through that chain stitch loop, then yarn over and pull through all 3. 1, 2, 3. I have 1 chain stitch left, so I'm going to yarn over, put it through that last chain, yarn over, and then pull through the 3 loops. Now some people will do 2 chains at the end of a row of half double crochets. I have opted to just do 1 chain and then turn my work. So yarn over, and then in that second loop from the hook, go through both loops of that V with your hook, and then yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, and pull through all 3. So again, I'm going through both of the loops of these top of the stitches, or V. They look like little V's. The last stitch of the second row kind of curves down this side, so you just want to yarn over and still make sure you pick up 1, 2, both loops of that V, and then pull your yarn through, yarn over, pull through the 3 loops, and do your 1 chain stitch, turn, and begin the 3rd row. So you'll be working 14 half double crochets in each of these 10 rows. And that's how every square is done. 10 rows, 14 stitches, 14 half double crochets in each of those 10 rows with 1 chain stitch at the end of each row. Okie dokie, I have almost finished my 10 rows. I'm on the 10th row and I have 2 stitches, 2 half double crochets left to do. So here's 1. And then on the last stitch, it's a little different. You'll put the hook through those V loops and pull it through. Now you've got the 3 loops on your hook, and I'm not going to use the charcoal gray. I'm going to let that fall to the back. And now I'll pick up my, what was this called? Aspen or something? Yes, Aspen Tweed. That's a lovely name. And then I'll use that to pull through those 3 loops. 1, 2, 3. I'm just kind of holding it in the back like that. And then work my chain, turn, and then I can just continue on with my new color. Now if I were working with a thinner regular yarn, I would go through there. I would take these yarn ends. This isn't in an end yet. I haven't cut it. So I'll leave about 4 inches. I would take these 2 yarn ends, here's the other one that we now have, and I would just work it underneath the top of these stitches and work it back through. But with this, when I tried to do that, it just made it too bulky under that, because that would be the 2 loops of the V here plus these 2 yarns. That's 4 strands of yarn to do your stitch around, and it just didn't look very good. So here's the bad news. We're gonna have to weave all of the yarn ends in when we're done. And it just aesthetically, it looks more pleasing. It looks better that way. Maybe not quite as convenient, but it does look a lot better. So now we can just continue on doing our 10 rows of half double crochet with this lovely, beautiful aspen tweed cream color. Okay, I am working on the 10th row, finishing it up. Here's the last 2 stitches. I thought I'd give you another opportunity to see us change the yarn color. So here's my last stitch for the half double crochet. So I'll pick up the V loops and yarn through. Now I've got 3 loops on my hook, and I'll drop the cream, pick up the charcoal, and holding that, I'm going to yarn over with the charcoal and pull through all 3 loops, and then I'll do a chain stitch. Now I'm going to tug that, pull a little snugger, and the cream also. I can cut a 4-inch tail of the cream now. Maybe. There. And now get the hook back in there and can just continue with the charcoal yarn and do my 10 more rows. So now what you will do is another block of the gray, so that you have gray, gray, cream, gray, cream, and gray, or charcoal, whichever you want to call it, so that you'll have 5 blocks altogether. So we'll work on that. When you're done with your 5th square, or your 3rd bit of gray, leave again another about 4 or 5 inch tail, and then I just finished my half double crochet, and then without doing a chain stitch, I just pull that yarn through instead of the chain stitch to tie it off and pull that nice and snug. And this is what that looks like. I'm going to call this a panel. I actually have the 2nd panel done, and so here is what that looks like. Cream, gray, cream, gray, cream. And then when we put those together, it's going to be so cool. I've completed 5 panels. Now we need to do something with all of these yarn ends. So there are lots of different ways, and if you have a favorite, go for it. What I do is use a very big needle with a big eye. And the best or easiest way for me to thread a needle is to fold it over the eye of the needle like that. It just makes it crisper to put through it's hard to go through the end with all that loose end tufts. So I'm going to pull this a little bit and loop that through to secure it. And now I can go, it's kind of facing this way, so I'll go on this side and weave it through a few stitches on this side. Oh, almost undid my needle. And now we'll go back through toward the outside edge. And then give it a little bit of a tug, because I was pulling it tight just to get the needle through. I guess my cat wants to say hi. She's hanging on the screen on the outside of my window. Say hi, kitty. So what you'll want to do when you lay out your panels to make this nice checkerboard pattern is make sure that they're all going in the same direction. So this is where I started. Each panel is in this corner, and this is where I ended. So they're all, I guess we'll call this the right side facing up, and then every start corner is right here on the same sides. This panel and this panel I'm going to turn upside down like this. So now I'll slip stitch these two sides together, these two sides, and these two sides together. And I'll have to get a close-up to show you why. So let's get a close-up of what we're going to be picking up with our hook when we do these slip stitches. And where the line comes across your work like this on the edges, it does kind of a diagonal. The yarn goes diagonally. I call these the knots. So there's a knot here, 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 here in the gray. We're going to pick up 2 stitches in between each of the knots. Don't pick up the knots. They're tight and they're harder to get your hook through, and they look messier. In between the 2 knots, there's what you can see, 2 and 1. So if I turned it right side up, it looks like a capital Y. Jink, 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 then the knot. Here's the other, another Y. Jink, jink, and then the stem of the Y. Knot. Here's the jink, jink, the U of the Y, and the stem of the Y. So sideways, that's what we'll be picking up. Is this will be a slip stitch and a slip stitch. Go over the knot, slip stitch where the 2 are, then the 1. Skip the knot. Slip stitch here where the 2 are and the 1. And we're not going to pick up both of these. Now we'll put these together, and because this is what we'll say right side, wrong side, right side, wrong side, and when I put these edges together like this, what you'll have is you match up your knots. So there's a knot and there's a knot, and just align them perfectly. And now I have, here's the 2 pieces of yarn for the Y, the 2 there. Everything lines up. So you've got your set of 2 here, your set of 2 here, and your 1 and your 1. Knot, knot. Set of 2, 1, 1, knot, knot. Set of 2, line. Just the 1 and the 1, and the knot, and a knot, and a knot. So when we're doing the one and the one, you just go through both of those. But with these set of two, we're just going to pick up the outside ones. So it would be this one on the outside, not the inner one, and not this inner one here, right there. We're going to pick up the outer one right there when we do the slip stitch. Okay, we're ready to get going. I'm going to use the Aspen Tweed, the cream color yarn, and I'm just going to hold the end of the yarn to the back of my work, and now I have the knots lined up. Here, 2 knots here, 2 knots, 2 knots. I'm going to pinch that together, and it's harder to see it on the very end where we're starting, but here the 2 parallel sets of yarn, and here's the 2 parallel sets here, and then here's the one and the one. So here we go. Here's the outside one here, and here's the outside here. And then just pull the yarn through, and now I can just pick up the one of, it's just a single, oh, I'm slip stitching. It's tempted to do a single crochet there. Skip the 2 knots. Now I'm going to pick up, here's 2, 2, I'm going to do the outside, outside. Pick up this outside, that outside. Do your slip stitch. Here are the knots. So I'm just going to pick up this one. They're just by themselves. They're really easy to find and pick up. There are the knots. Here's my set of 2. So I'm going to get the outside strand of yarn here and the outside strand of yarn there. Slip stitch that and pick up the ones that are just by themselves. Here are the knots. Here's the outside of the pair. Here are the knots. Here's the single one. Those are always easy. And you just follow that all the way down. There are the knots. Here's the pairs here, or the set of 2. Pick up the outside. And I'm going to turn off the camera and continue working all the way down. That's what that looks like right there with your slip stitches. I'm getting close to the end. Outside, I just passed the knots, picking up the outside yarn of the sets, and then the last ones by themselves. Now I'm just going to cut my yarn. When you get to the end of crocheting your 2 strips together, another way to deal with this yarn end is to just pull the yarn end through like you usually do, but what I am going to do, and see if it helps make it more secure, I heard that this works, is to put it through that loop twice instead of once. And that's supposed to make a tighter, more secure knot. So this will be an experiment to see if it really works. And then we'll just get the yarn and oops, pull it through like we did all the other yarn ends. another thing I noticed is you don't want to have those too tight, because it make sure you don't pull these yarn ends too tight, because it will make it pucker. And then after I've done that in a couple of spots, I want to bring the yarn end to the back of this afghan, and I'm calling the back the one that has the ridges like this instead of that side. So this will be the front, this will be the back. So I'm going to bring the yarn end to this back side and then pull it down through the work a little bit before I trim it off with some scissors. And if you want to do this with a needle, it might go faster. But you do want to put it through a few stitches, and I like to choose tight ones just to make sure it's going to stay. Like that. Okay, so now we have this one done. Slide that down, and now we're going to hook the next panel on. This is the right side, this is the wrong side, this is the right side. So wrong side, right side, we're going to put those together and do this seam here. If we don't do it that way, then these edges aren't going to line up. I'm going to start by lining them up, pinching it together. Here are my knots, knots, knots. Here's the singles, doubles. I'm picking up the outside of the doubles to start with, and just laying the yarn on the back with about a 7-inch tail, pulling that through. Now I'm picking up the singles, slip stitch that, skip the knot, pick up the outsides, slip stitch. Now I'll just finish up these seams and finish up this baby blanket or afghan. Okay, now it's all done and it looks fantastic. Here's the back side. And that side looks really good too. I really like the way this connecting crochet turned out. On this afghan, I'm going to put a little decorative edge on it, really simple. With the right side facing me, I'm just going to start in the middle of one of the squares, and I'm going to pick up both strands of this very bottom edge. Pick up both strands of yarn, and I'm just going to do a slip stitch to secure the yarn, and then a double crochet in the same place under those two strands of yarn. And then I'll work a chain stitch. Then I will skip a set of stitches and do a double crochet in the next set and do a chain, and then just keep going along the bottom. Double crochet, skip a set here, and then do a double crochet in the next set or stitch and a chain, and then I won't pick up these two. Skip, double crochet, skip, double crochet with the chain in between each double crochet. So I'm going to pause it till I get to this corner, and then we'll go up one of these, call them the raw edge. Now I'm at the corner. I did a chain here, so I'll just do another double crochet in this corner. And now instead of chaining one, I'm going to chain two. 1, 2, and in that same space I'm going to do another double crochet and then chain 2, 1, 2, and a third double crochet for the corner, and chain 2. And now on this raw edge I'm going to pick up, like we did when we were connecting these bands together, the rows. I'm going to pick up where there are 2 pieces of yarn, and I'll do 2 chain stitches in between each one because they're fairly spaced apart. There will be one here, 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 here. It's right below, or right to the right, this line that you can kind of see in your crocheting. So I did the chain 2, and the first one is right here to the right of this row, and the 2 strands of yarn will go in there and chain 2. You need to chain 2 because these are just spaced farther apart. Here is that row, or that line. So here are the 2 strands of yarn. I'm going to go underneath, chain 2. Here's the line. Here are the 2 strands of yarn. I'm going to go underneath, chain 2. So on this raw edge you will do 2 chains in between each double crochet instead of 1, like you do on the more finished edge. And then work your way around. When we get this raw edge done to the other corner, that's when you'll work 3 double crochets with 2 chains in between in each corner. And then when we do this side, it has that same finished type of edge that you can just do 1 chain stitch in between each double crochet and then you skip. And they're really easy to find on the top and the bottom. It's the sides that are a little more difficult. So work your way around and we'll see what it looks like. Back where I started, and so now I'm going to do a chain stitch and do a slip stitch in that slip stitch that I started with. Now I can cut my yarn and tie it off and weave in the end. Here's the afghan with its finished edge. Here's the back and here's the front. Oh, I think it looks beautiful. I really like it. Hope you do too. Have fun.